not rewriting, I suppose, the book here, but in essence, a lot of people is really what I would know NAOS is really all about, especially with NCC coming up to 3 years of investing, is more and more I think about it, and especially over the last 8 or 9 years, there's so much focus on short-termism, and I think it's being driven by a lot of factors. But I think more and more you tend to focus that even today with NAOS, everyone wants to know what your monthly NTA is, or what your monthly performance is, or what your weekly movement is. When in effect, for people to make any substantial change in a week is next to impossible. And then even if they do make a change, whether it's recognised by the market is even more impossible, if not impossible. So I think it rings quite true. And I think when you look at the quote on the side of the screen, or even in your presentation, I think some people look at their portfolios today, and some stocks, would you want to own that stock for 10 years? I think some of the companies that have been listed recently, or even in some people's portfolios, might not be around for 10 minutes. Not to say that's right or wrong, and I think the beauty about doing what we do is there's a million ways to skin a cat, so there's not one right way to do it. But I think the way we've found at NAOS is it's always good to have a core of what we believe are long-term positions, backing people, backing businesses with what we think is sustainable competitive advantage, and they tend not to play out over 12 months. As some would probably be aware here, a few of our major investments, the MDs are in the room tonight, and they would be well aware that it doesn't play over 12 months. It might be 3 or 4 years or 5 years. Just, if you define the type of investor, everyone focuses on returns, but I think just if I don't go through that slide by slide or line by line, the most important bit, it's interesting because I think it's the return that really doesn't define us. It's always the liquidity or the risk management side of it that really defines you as an investor. But I think more and more people focus so much on a return, they think that defines them as an investor. And what tends to happen is you find out you're in the wrong asset class, or you think you might be in some small cap equity or a large cap equity, but you don't really understand that the risk you're taking. And therefore, when something tends to go pear-shaped, and although it hasn't happened in the last 3 months, or 3 years for that matter, at some stage it will, and people will say, well, why was I in this in the first place? It's more based on a return decision as opposed to a risk management decision. And I think people don't probably understand the difference between the two, as well as the other issues. As I mentioned before, I think there has been a significant shift towards short-term investing, and I think, as the slide says, there's been a real issue around people's psychology hasn't changed. And the two issues we've raised there we'll raise further on, is the liquidity profile of people is changing. People are getting older, they desire more liquidity, but at the same time, due to their funding profile, they desire a higher risk or a higher return. On the counter side, what we're seeing lately with, I suppose, more recent IPOs is you're seeing more and more short-term capital probably flowing into higher risk investments. So whether it's venture capital type things or more tech IPOs or whatever it may be, people are investing in them with the view that it might be a 6-month or a 12-month exit strategy, but in fact, it's probably more of a 5 or a 10-year story, but they're really there just purely for the return. And once again, you're seeing the mismatch of what we believe is liquidity profile versus the return profile. Then, how long does it really take for a successful investment to really truly play out? A simple chart I'm sure everyone's seen, but normally refers to retirement homes or the lack of or aged care facilities in Australia. But if you look at the OECD, and as you can see over that 10-year period change, that obviously as the world gets older, it basically means one thing, and there's a funding issue with that as I go on to the next slide. And basically when you look at pension funds around the world, and even in Australia, people are looking for a desired return to fund their retirement living. I do apologise if it's quite small, there are some presentations over there. And the issue with that is basically people are forced to find a higher return in a much quicker time period. And what people are doing is it forces them into more, I suppose, liquid investments, but smaller investments, unlisted investments, infrastructure, real estate, or whatever it may be. Once again, tying into that theme of basically their return is dictating their investment. It's not their liquidity profile or it's not their risk manner. They're basically pushing themselves into all sorts of investments, whether it's off the plan property or whatever it may be, in the assumption that they can exit very quickly and get a solid return to fund their retirement living. And as you can see, based on some of those charts, the funding deficit is not insignificant at all. The major one, as I'm sure most people are aware, is basically interest rate levels. So as you've seen, interest rates have fallen. It's been a hot topic of conversation now for the last 3, 4, 5 years. And it's basically driven people into, I suppose, higher risk investments. So I had a person, I went to Newcastle yesterday, and I had a person come up to me and said, you should be, basically you should compare them, because term deposits are so low, you should be comparing yourself or just marketing yourself just as a dividend yield or an income instrument. And I think, if I told him basically our NCC portfolio is made up of 8 stocks, some of which are 19%, I think it currently is our largest position, I don't think it quite clicks. It's so far from being a term deposit product, when potentially you could lose a significant amount of capital, overnight. Just over here, I suppose we're looking at charts on, the different asset classes and what we believe are high risk and low risk. And we would consider ourselves, I suppose, more public equity strategic when it's NCC, or NAC more classifies itself as a hedge fund. But I suppose if you... Yeah, go for it. I can just hold this. Stand it up. Do you want to hold it?
Yes.
I suppose if you look at more of the, so now everyone can hear, I suppose there'd be some asset classes in there where a lot of people wouldn't consider them to be high risk in a sense. I suppose other real estate, direct private equity, or even real estate for that matter, a lot of people will consider those to be quite low risk. But what you're seeing more and more is more people investing in these asset classes with a view that they're low risk, just on the assumption that cash rates are at record low. So therefore, if cash rates are record low, that's no longer investment. We should be investing in different asset classes just because on a relative basis, they offer a slightly higher return. And I think one of the best, I suppose, as one of my mentors always said, the best decision you ever make is the decision that you never made. You shouldn't have to force yourself into these type of investments just purely on a relative basis. I think everyone bases themselves on relative benchmarks, but at the end of the day, in 3 years' time, if you have 30% of your portfolio in cash, and it might have burnt a hole in your pocket for the last 3 years, but at the end of the day, you're the one, like I suppose Warren Buffett funded Goldman Sachs at the bottom of the GFC because no one else would. If you annualise that return over that period, you're well ahead of anyone else, just because you have the flexibility to do it. And that's the issue, because no one really places a return on flexibility, or no one places a return on cash plus a return, just for having it in the back of your pocket. Just as Claire mentioned before, I think it's interesting, and there'd be a lot more of it in the market today, and we probably could have given you 10 examples of some companies we've seen. And it's really, I suppose, the issue we're seeing on a lot of investors and a lot of management teams, especially of a lot of our investors. We've seen people coming out maybe potentially with poor quarterly reports, poor half-yearly reports, and subsequently you see share prices not down by 10 or 20%, you see share prices halve over 6 months, with a view that investors take a view that, oh, well, the next 6 months I'm not going to make any money, so the opportunity cost is going to kill me, so I may as well sell my shares and go into something else. Then you look at remuneration for certain managing directors or CFOs or whatever it may be, and it's based on 12-month or 24-month KPIs with the view that they can sell those shares straight away. I think if you look at also some company announcements and what you're seeing lately, you see a lot of announcements. I think I read an announcement the other day, it was maybe a page long, and I think I've seen 300 words that pretty much meant nothing. But it gives the view that it sort of hypes the market up. It gives the market what it wants to see, and you're seeing more and more of it. And I think more and more of that money thinks, well, the more announcements a company makes, I suppose the more undervalued or the more momentum it has. I think if you look at a company like we're an investor in Reece, for example, the plumbing business, the plumbing supplies business, being one of the best performing stocks over maybe a 3 or 4 year period. It's been a family business for over 50 years. I think they might make 2 announcements a year, maybe their half-year report, their full-year report, maybe an AGM presentation, and that'd be it. A very hot topic in the office, and especially I get this from a few of the portfolio managers, we'll get all the articles flying around about what all these activist funds are doing. And some big names, obviously people like Bill Ackman, for example, Dan Loeb in the States as well. The activists, I suppose, the investment community in the States has taken off exponentially. And it's really come down to these people taking what really not that big a stake in a company, might be 5 or 10%, and really shaking things up with a view that there's a lot of short-term profit to be made through a spin-off, through cutting costs, through whatever it may be, but really with no effect on looking, I suppose, the longer-term vision for any business. The long-term vision, when you read a lot of these announcements by some of these active investments, just doesn't even come into play. The view is, the board's being lazy, the balance sheet may be undergeared or whatever it may be, and we need to act on this. And when you do look at some of the statistics on it, I think the shareholder returns have been excellent, as you can see there. So the average shareholder return's been 35%. When you look at some key metrics, and I think it rings true to our own, I suppose, economy here, you look at profit margins and the capex ratio have both fallen quite significantly. especially when you consider them against very billion-dollar companies. And the view is you can obviously make a very short-term gain, but in the longer term, some of these businesses will flounder for a very long time. And I think you've seen that in Australia, the fact that there's very little innovation, there's very little capex spend. Every time you go to you speak with a business, I think their view in investing in people or capital expenditure is very negligible. It's always on the back burner, which is fine, but it's been driven by short-term profit margins, so their ability to try and meet market expectations, so they can trade at a market multiple or whatever it may be, even in 2 or 3 years' time, with a view where we're maybe missing out on a significant revenue stream or a profit stream. And I think one of the most interesting ones, even though I won't focus on this, I'll bring it up, is obviously I noticed in today's paper was the old Woolworths chairman who came out and said, Woolworths should be supporting the Masters business, whereby I think every time you read an article in the paper, and a lot of what analysts say is everyone's saying, well, Woolworths should shut Masters down. But I don't think once I've ever seen, I don't necessarily agree with it, but looking at, well, what is the opportunity in the marketplace? I think if anyone looked at, well, what does Bunnings make in the marketplace, and what investment is required to keep, I suppose, compete on that scale, and what would it look like on a 10-year view, no one really seems to take that view as, well, how can, I suppose, Woolworths fund that? And it's a significant cash drain in the short term. I think something needs to be done about that. Just looking at, I suppose, just to show you, especially in the States, it's a lot more significant, but this is a business called Skechers. I'm sure lots of people wear Skechers shoes in the room. But as you can see there, each of the red circles just looks at quarterly announcements, and as you can see, some stock prices, most recently, for example, the stock price fell by 40% on a business that I think that grew, based on what Ben told me, probably grew at sort of circa 25% for the quarter, but didn't meet market expectations. That's the type of market that we live in today. Even in small caps, you get to see it more and more. Everyone wants to know, well, what's your quarterly, what's the expectations, and are you going to meet those expectations? And if not, then I really honestly don't want to be invested in you, and I'm definitely not going to give you the benefit of the doubt for the next 6 months. Another one, more recently, and more of a household name, would be Twitter. So as you can see there, significant share price moves of 20, 25, 30%, purely just on quarterly announcements. And to be fair, a lot of them wouldn't be based on revenue, it would be based more on how many Twitter users do you have, and what's the average revenue per user for those Twitter products. Another interesting point, and I think this is very topical, is if you look at privately held companies, their ability to reinvest in themselves over a long period of time is significantly higher than public companies. And obviously it's because we're under that public scrutiny of investors, I suppose, such as ourselves, and the ability, and that really comes back to people need short-term profits as opposed to, I suppose, longer-term profits over a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 year, 10-year view. Everyone's interested in how it's going to change their P&L for the next 12 months or 6 months. And I suppose it's quite a sad picture in some respects, but it's really the ability for people, the opportunity cost they're losing on, I suppose, a new deal or a new market. The ability to capitalise on a macro theme. I think one of the most interesting things, for example, would be a macro theme with the banks to, I suppose, compete with any, fintech startup. I guess you're starting to see some of the banks, I suppose, spend 10, 20 million on fintech startups, but it'd be interesting to see how it plays out in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time when these banks operate such a large oligopoly, and whether or not, in hindsight, they should have been well ahead by some of these startups that had funding of only maybe $2 or $3 or $4 million. And as I said, back to that point there, just a great example of a top 10 company, the ability of shareholders really to influence companies and really stop them from spending money on such a, I suppose, potential opportunity such as Masters. And I think you'll find out from what I understand in the next couple of weeks of where that business goes. Another topical business, and a business we were invested in a very long time ago and still remain invested in, was Cube Holdings, which a long time ago was a business called Kill, when it actually used to be a listed investment company prior to they consolidating the two assets, or the assets of that business. And I only bring it up because, as you can see there, people have made significant share price gains over the longer term. But when you look at that, if I overlay that chart with the share price graph, the business, when we invested in it, was roughly capped at about $300 million. In the same year, they spent about $300 million in capex. And I think most people, if you explain that to them, they go, oh, well, when we invest in some businesses like that, go, well, no, the share price never goes up when a business tends to spend that sort of money. And we want to see the fruits of that investment made over a 3 or 4 or 5 year view, so we'll return then. But as you can see, and I suppose subsequently with the takeover of Asciano and those Patrick assets, they've been able to invest very wisely in what I suppose monopoly assets, in a sense, or duopoly assets. And it shows that, because they control such a large part of that register, in effect it's the band back together. They've had the shareholder support and the capital structure to spend that sort of money, especially in the shorter term, back in FY10, FY11, FY12 and 13, to get those shareholder gains over the long term. Whereby I would argue, like a REIT for example, where you don't have that shareholder structure or that support, it doesn't allow you to spend that money for the sake of short-term gains or short-term pain. Just maybe a final point on what we think is quite interesting is obviously the change in market sentiment. I think at some of these businesses, I'll say we've been shareholders in some of the businesses in this room for 3 years. And I think it's interesting, you walk out of a half-year report or a full-year report and I get about 5 phone calls saying, oh, Seb, you're still happy with that investment, that was a really bad report, the momentum's slowing, the revenue only grew by 2%. It sounds like, it's probably on its way out or it's overvalued. And it's amazing, you talk to that person a week before and they probably have the opposite view. And then they might talk to someone else who's a big holder and has a very positive view, and then their view all of a sudden very positive again and they're buying in the market. You get different fund managers at different places where they run different funds and one's selling and one's buying. I think sentiment drives our market so much more than what it used to, and you're seeing that in small caps and large caps, and it does create the opportunity, but unfortunately for people like us and myself, when I'm releasing a month-end report, that volatility tends to sort of scare a lot of people from investing in funds like us because they think we're high risk, especially when you only own 10 businesses. And I think I would argue that it's the opposite effect, and I've got some statistics to show you that, but it does create the opportunity. Just here, as I've touched on before, that the opportunity for the long-term investor, I use that Berkshire Hathaway example. It's interesting that a fund or a business like Goldman Sachs was able to get no funding at the bottom of the GFC and had to rely on someone like a Warren Buffett to bail them out back in 2008. I'll just touch on NAOS for only a quick moment, since obviously not a product push, but I think it shows in our numbers. NCC now has been around for 3 years in February. We've achieved almost a 17% return annualised. But what's quite interesting in the numbers and what I tend to focus on, I've been telling a lot of people lately, is if you look at our 1 year figure, we're actually flat. But I would say to a lot of people, and there's some people in here people should talk to who run some of these businesses, a lot of momentum has been made and a lot of progress has been made in some of our underlying investments, but it's not yet reflected in the share prices because people are hanging out for an annual report for FY16. And there's not many investors that can, I suppose, take those long-term positions where we own 18 or 19% of some companies, because our capital structure allows us to do that, because people can't redeem out of our funds. They can't pull their money out, so we're forced sellers. It gives us the ability and the stability to invest for the long term and back what we think are some very impressive people who are proven in a lot of other private businesses, but might find the public space a little bit harder to deal with because it is so transparent. Another interesting point we always get all the time is we currently own 9 stocks, of which the top 5 represent 75% of the fund. And over the last 3 years, everyone said, oh, you're extremely high risk. But I think if you look at the return to start with, we've outperformed the market by 50%. Yet our volatility is 2.5% lower than the general small ordinaries index. So I think it's a myth that people think concentrated funds are extensively high risk. And I think it's more important that people should look at downside deviation, so it looks at your movement to the downside. Then no one cares on volatility to the upside, because everyone's happy to have great months, but as soon as it starts going down, that's what people tend to focus more on about. Obviously the dividend profile, we've managed to grow even though we've had a flat year. And then, as I mentioned before, we do think we are very true to label, and we're very proud of that. We are very focused on our top 5 investments, but at the same time, 3 of those investments have been in the fund now for about 30 months, so the fund's only been around for 32 months. And we think, over the next 2 years, and me personally, are very confident that some of those investments will tend to pay off. And as I said, sometimes the best decision you ever make is the one that you didn't make. You continue to support some of these investments, and just as quickly as they can fall off, many people will be aware they can obviously come out the other side. Things tend not to go up in a straight line. Starting on our other fund, our new fund, which actually has a 12-year anniversary, 1 year anniversary tomorrow. And it's NAC, so it's more of a multi-strategy product. It's really what we call a global hedge fund. So we can invest in bonds, currencies, and equities. with a view that we wanted to run very low volatilities. Everyone's fixated on returns, but I think volatility is just important. So since inception, we've delivered, on our target of getting 10 to 15%, so we're coming at about 14%. With the market, if you look at the domestic market, the market is flat here or slightly up. But with a downside deviation of 0.4, so I think we're only down 2 of the 12 months, only a very small way. So the guys have done an extremely impressive job. But more importantly, I think you can get returns from, our highest return, I suppose, asset class for the year was actually just US dollar cash. So we didn't bother buying US equities, obviously because our lack of expertise at the time. Half the portfolio was in US cash for a long period of time, and that's proved to be an excellent position, even with a very low volatility. And currently we're short a lot of US bonds, for example, based on cash rates moving higher over the long term. And also, as I go through the back, short US biotech and more thematic plays as opposed to very stock-specific plays. So I think people get hung up on equities, but sometimes equities, as history's shown, is not the best way to play certain themes. I'll go through this. People can want to talk to me about it, but maybe it's just better if you review it in your own presentation. But some of the themes we're focusing on the next financial year or the calendar year. But just to finish off, and I think just to, I suppose, tie up with Claire, for us it really is all about alignment. If you look at a lot of our businesses, the biggest shareholders in those businesses are the founders or the directors or the executive team. And for us it is all about long-term I suppose, objectives. So we run a hurdle, for example, of I suppose a mythical hurdle of 20% per annum. And I suppose the issue with that is, and I find it quite interesting, is you can start at 0, it can be negative 20, but if your stock then doubles or triples in year 4 or 5, you can still achieve that 20% hurdle. And I think that's the view we take, but very few will take that similar hurdle because it takes a long time for a market to value a stock adequately, especially if there's been a few bumps along the way, or they're too small, or they're too illiquid, or whatever it may be, and hence that creates the opportunity. Finally, I'd just like to, first of all, thank everyone again for their support. It's been an interesting 3 years, and it wouldn't be possible without a lot of people in this room. And I'd also like to thank the NAOS team, which has grown to 10 people now, 10 full-time staff, so we'll start with about 3 or 4. And thanks again for coming to our second night, the second evening we've ever done, so we hope to see you hopefully again in 6 months. Thank you.